everyone, it's Cara here. I'm just going to do a flip through of my first ever art journal. Now, I journaled for a long time in sort of half the size books, so A5, but it was a lot of writing, a lot of emotion, a lot of pouring myself onto the page. Then I started going to some classes, and this is kind of my first journal from when those classes begun. So this is a Dale Rowney book. It's 150 paper. However, I did glue a lot of the pages together in this book, so kind of made it 300. Anyway, so this is just a little bit of collage here with a silhouette on it, a little bit of stamping in the background. And I've kind of done the same here, but with paint in the background, a little bit of tissue paper, and then the mask there to create this black haze. These are Tim Holtz. They're like little chipboard shapes, so I peeled the top off of them. I'm not sure what this is from. As I said, this is really, really old. This is July 2018. And so is this. And these are not the first pages in this book. Although they're the first pages, not the first ones created. So yeah, I will tell you the supplies if I know them. This is a very muddy, messy Dilutions page. I think what happened was I didn't like the background, so I tried to kind of brighten it up with all the Dilutions around the side, but that didn't really work for me. This was March 2020, so this was actually during lockdown. I think it may have been when I did a class online with Diane Reevely, and then I was kind of inspired to do a bit more, so I grabbed out some journals that had some blank pages in them. Because I work in multiple journals, there's always journals with empty pages in, so I might, like, the dates will flip, as you can see, 2018 to 2020. Again, just a nice background with, this is Distress Inks, a couple of stencils in the background, and then some stamping, these nice feathers. I can't remember where any of these are from, and I don't have any of these anymore, although I do believe this might be a Tracy Scott stencil. Again, with some Dilutions. I used to love, sorry, not Dilutions, Distress Inks. I used to love my Distress Inks. This is a die cut butterfly that I got in a swap, and these are Tim Holtz Small Talk stickers. And again, with just that little bit of stamping, very basic pages. As you can see, I was kind of trying to experiment with different techniques, I suppose, because there's some texture paste in here, and there's some kind of, we used to call it sgraffito, but you know, digging into your paint whilst it's wet. Again, this is just some paint with a little bit of stamping in the background, and this is an image from a magazine. These were stamps I had, a stamp set, and I used to kind of do them twice so it looked a bit blurry sometimes, a bit like a shadow effect, so that's what that is. This is a collage. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyway, that's a collage. And in the background, it is all collaged tissue paper with paint over the top. I think there's some scribble stick in there from what I can see, and some stamping, another bit of collage here. These words, I believe I just used to type out quotes that I liked and put them through my computer, so that's what they are. This is, I think this is also Distress Inks, smooshed across the page, normally with like one of these blending tools. And then I did a silhouette of these legs, bit of journaling in there, so you can see I was still kind of doing some of my journaling. And then a girl's legs are her best friends, but even the best of friends must part. I thought that was quite a funny quote, so that's again the same stamps, and then I've just highlighted that. This is one of my favourite pages, but first of all, this is just some Tim Holtz tissue paper in the background. This one looks like paint in the background, so it would have been Dina Wakley media paint, because that's the paint I have. Again, these are Tim Holtz, and this was a quirky little collage pig person that I did. I think these are Diane Reevely stamps, but the rest of it is just from collage bits and bobs. I used to sort of bung them all in together. This is definitely Distress Inks. I made this background and I fell in love with it. Everything in the background you can see is the stamps. There's no tissue paper, so all of this detail is all stamps. This is a stamp, and then I just drew a silhouette of the lady's face. And I'm obsessed with becoming a woman comfortable in her own skin. I've made this into canvas, which actually sold, and this print is very, very popular when I was selling my print. So yeah, I love this one. A bit faded now, but you know, it was bright when I did it. Again, another one with a bit of journal on, a bit of a dark time. So yeah, just an image that spoke to me at the time. A lot of blues and blacks, and is hope lost? I wasn't feeling great, so let's just skip over that. This is some paint. There's some texture paste there, a bit of stenciling. This is washi tape around the outside. These are photocopied from a postcard that someone sent me in a mail swap. This is from a magazine, and I just sort of embellished it with some eyes. And these are Diane Reevely back chat stickers. This was like a 1920s, 30s style page that I did in a class actually. These were stencils obviously, and then we added some details. These hats are cut from paper. This is die cut, again some flowers. All these flowers are all die cut around the outside, but we did squares in the background and then kind of used what's it called, a Stabilo oil pencil to kind of bring them out. A bit of stamping on the back, and again another stamp set there to create the words. This is definitely inks, so again this is distress inks put on with one of those blending tools. One of my first attempts at, I believe, a Tamara Laporte or at Willowing class to draw this face, which was one of my first faces. So I started drawing faces very early, September 2018, and I'm okay but not brilliant. So yeah, that was one of my first girls I drew. These stickers were from, like, they get in the UK, you get big packs of stickers that go on like dustbins and things. These were from there. I had to sand them and gesso them because they were so shiny, and then paint over the top. But then I just create the background with some paints. There's some stenciling in there. This is all stenciling, these leaves. The same as all this, all stenciling. Then I added the berries. There is some stamping in the background as well. These circles, probably done with a paint lid, because it looks like that's the only sort of stamping stenciling that's there. So I think that's a tube lid, you know. This is again distress ink, so I just smushed my colours over the page. I kind of like these colours all together. And then I had this fairy set of stamps, came with these words as well. So I just kind of went a bit crazy on it. Flying fairies and a little one sprinkling some dust, which I did with a little bit of glitter. So again, this one's just paint. This is actually using a brayer. A little bit of collage on the bottom here. I found this pile of cups, thought it was quite cute, so I used it to bring the colours for here. And then this little girl, again, this is very early on because I would normally have cut those white bits out, and I can see now it's going to bug me now I've seen it. And these were die cut shapes someone sent me. Again, these are Dilutions back chats. This was a painted background, stenciling and stamping in the background. This is a stencil. I think it's Crafters Workshop, but I'm not sure. And this was a Jane Davenport face stencil that I just drew through and then kind of thickened all the lines. Again, it was in the time when I was trying to practice drawing faces, so it's good to kind of go over the lines to see where they go, and it kind of helps with muscle memory. And then this little border is just done with a little stamp as well. Again, using the squares, but these ones were all the same size, whereas the ones back here somewhere were all different sizes. Painting them, they were scrapbook paper, and then we gessoed over the top, leaving the moon, and then we drew a tree on book paper and music paper, stuck that on with these foxes that I believe were printables, and then we used sort of extra paint and a bit of colour to make them our own. Bit of stamping in the background again, very simple page really. These are Dina Wakley stamps. Book music paper in the background, again just some shapes. Yeah, just playing around really. This was from a wedding magazine. I was getting married at the time and I was looking at wedding magazines, hence this from Tim Holtz. A little bit of journaling about my wedding. and I love this, so I just kind of did a pink background and added that on. This background was very messy. I didn't really like it, so then I got my brayer with the white and kind of dulled that down a bit. I practiced drawing faces again. I wasn't really good at hair, so all my faces are kind of off the edge of the page, so I didn't have to put hair on them. But this was a much better face than the one before. These are Tim Holtz, and these are from a stencil, but I can't think at the moment what stencil that's from. This is just some paint. I believe it's a jelly plate print, and then I've stenciled over the top. I love doing circles in my work, so I did some circles and then grabbed out my shapes from Tim Holtz. I can't remember what these are called, but they came in a little pack. I'm not sure if you can still get them. And stuck them on and drew around them. And then that's again one of those thick chipboard quotes from Tim Holtz. And as I said, I just peel the top layer off so it's not too thick in my journal. I loved this stencil, and I have a son who's not with us, and feathers mean a lot to me, so I did this page not in memory of him, but just feathers make me think of him. So yeah, that's what that is. This was a magazine page that I photocopied because I really loved it. It looked like an old newspaper text, so that's what's in the background there with some paint. It looks like it's been brayered on, or maybe even scraped with like a card. And then this is from Dilutions, so is this edge, and that face is Dilutions, that is, and these are just from magazines. This is a perfume bottle and some wings. I actually love this again. This has sold in prints many times. It's stenciling in the background. I believe I cleaned my stencil off and didn't like it, so then I started adding more and more. And then I've got this little sort of chipboardy frame and the Dilutions back chat, and this little girl came from a swap that someone sent me in a pen pal swap. I went to see Magic Mike at the theatre at the Hippodrome when it was out, and they give you like this Magic Mike money to throw at them. So all this pink in the background is like the Magic Mike money, and then I've added paint over the top. Obviously I've done a rainbow. This is with face paint that I got for Pride, that you just kind of swipe on your face and it comes out like this. So I put it on here, and then obviously it was at the time of COVID, so I wrote NHS on it because we was all, you know, clapping and at the door and all that kind of thing. This is just paint dragged down the page on some stamped text, and popped this lady singing karaoke on. Again, I can tell this early because I've forgotten to cut the middle out, but I missed the sound of my voice because we weren't allowed to do karaoke at the time. Again, lockdown, April 2020, and we was missing it. We used to go to karaoke quite a lot. This page I hated, so I painted over it in black, stuck an image on it, just did these dots around the outside and added a quote, and then I've done some doodling on her, as you can see. Another inky page, so the Distress Oxide inks smushed across the page, some stamping to make it look vintagey, and some more of those Tim Holtz with him sitting on books. Not really liking this page right now, but at the time I probably did, because as I said, it's 2020, quite early on in my journaling journey. These are Dilutions sprays. I could never get on with them. They always went through to the next page. So I've actually stuck a piece of tissue paper over the top to stop those running. And then I've just done some stamping over the top. This is, these are Dina Wakely chipboard shapes. I've cut round it so I could have more than one. Again, this is the ink seeped through from the other page, so I've done exactly the same with a bit of tissue over the top, little bits of Hessian, and just stuck them on because my fingers used to get covered, and they still are a little bit now. And that's why this is here to protect this page. So I have a brain condition, and this was just like me trying to express all the rubbish that's in my head. So these are, they're called thickies, and they're like little stickers, but you used to always get, you know, the odd ones that are all left, you know, the V's and the Q's that you never use. So I stuck them on to represent all the rubbish that was coming out of my head and did in my mind. And this is obviously just from a magazine. So that is my very first sort of art creative journal, if you like, that can be shared, is what I'm going to say. So this run from 2018 to 2020, but I do work in multiple journals, so it didn't actually take me 2 years to complete that. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up. share my page to your friends that might be interested in watching, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.